the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoff.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome in. This is FST Fantasy Sports Today, playoff time. My name's Matt Strager, his name's Joe Pisapia, and this is the place to dominate. There's money to be made. We're going to get right to it. Quickly, though, if you're new to the show, perhaps you're lapsed, at SportsGrid TV. Those are the social media handles. Do yourself a favor when you get a chance. Just make sure you're following along because we are talking to the author. Yeah, that's right. He wrote the book, literally, of the Fantasy Black Book. Joe Pisapia, the one and only, my friend. What a perfect time to have you in our clutches. Time to make some money on playoff football, my friend. Did you enjoy yesterday?
I did. I also enjoy the phrase "in his clutches." It reminds me of G.I. Joe in the mid-'80s when I was just a lad. Clutches sounds very Cobra Commander-y. I just want to point that out. But yes, some fun football yesterday, unless you were a Steelers fan or a Chargers fan. Some really fun games there. We're going to break those down for you. We're going to talk about Derrick Henry, my dude, wearing the NFL Blitz Derrick Henry shirt today. That's right. That's my boy. More on Derrick Henry in this show, too. We're going to do a recap of some of the futures that I like the most, my favorite bets of 2024. Well, in 2025, we're going to grade them. We're going to talk DFS today. We're going to talk player props. My goodness, what a wonderful 2 hours we have. But we have to start with the headlines, Matt Stryker. And Wildcard Weekend has begun, and with it, obviously, a big news story, the Los Angeles fires. And once again, you know, our hearts go out to everybody out there in the LA community and that area who have lost so much. And you can go and donate to the Red Cross. We encourage everybody to do that to help folks continue to rebuild after just another terrible wildfire tragedy out there on the West Coast. And because of that, you are going to get a move from the LA Stadium to Phoenix today for the game, on Monday night against the Minnesota Vikings. So we're going to have to break that down too and talk about that, because I wonder yesterday with the Chargers, how much, the distraction of that, real life entered into the preparation last week for them. They knew they were going on the road anyway, but this is people's lives. This is affecting everybody around there. I don't know if it changed a lot of the patterns of what they do. And we know these teams are creatures of habit. So whenever they get out of the habit, and you understand this, and get out of routine, things don't always go well. I don't know if that was part of the reason yesterday that the Chargers had so many issues, but if that isn't an indicator, I think it should make people a little bit worried potentially about what the Rams might be offering on Monday too, because I think their week was probably a lot more chaotic preparing as though they were not going to be on the road, and then now having to go on the road into a neutral site. Not that it's a home field advantage anyway, but Matt, do you have any indicators there? I know it's a very small idea compared to the reality of life. We're a football show, so we're going to talk about the football impact. Do you think the Rams are going to have a football impact from what you saw yesterday with the Chargers?
No, you're showing sound thinking. Remember, we're all about wagering here. So what are we wagering upon? We always talk about it all the time. We try to eliminate all the anomalies, all the outcomes to which we can't really get our fingers on. This is something here where you said it best. It's real life versus fantasy. And I come from the world of pro wrestling, so I struggled with it all the time. You just can't pine over the minutia of things like a play or a match, things like that, when you realize you're constantly on your phone. Is everyone okay? Is everything okay? So yeah, I'm a stay away that way. I think it definitely impacts things from the neck up. And I'm glad you brought it up, because a lot of people will only wager from the neck down, if you will, on the athleticism, the plays and things of that nature. But you bring up the emotional element. So yeah, I do think that the Rams could be compromised.
And the line has moved too. It was 1.5. Now it's moved to 2.5 in the favor of the Minnesota Vikings. So you always wonder, okay, what's this number on a neutral field? Well, now you're going to see it. And also you have to imagine too, it's going to be a lot easier for the Minnesota Viking fan base to travel and to move than it is right now for a lot of folks in that LA area. So it's a tough situation there all the way around. Obviously very minimal compared to the disasters and the tragedy of people losing homes and losing lives, and, pales in comparison. But again, this is what we're tasked to do here today, is talk about some of the football impact. So we're going to talk about that a little later in the show too. Also, lots of NFL head coaching changes. So many of them here. We had the Raiders, one last one here, and I think we're done for now. I don't know if any of the playoff coaches are going to get axed. I doubt it. I don't think that's usually what we're going to see in the NFL. But there are a fair amount of openings right now. The New York Jets have interviewed pretty much everybody but me, and I'm insulted that I didn't get an interview. I mean, they've got like 12 interviews. Come on, give me one. I mean, maybe I can turn this thing around, Jets. The Chicago Bears looking for somebody. New Orleans Saints, obviously, they moved on from Dennis Allen in season as well. So the three teams that were in season firings, the Jets, Bears, and Saints. Then, of course, the Black Sunday and Black Monday here. The Patriots didn't even wait till Monday to get rid of Gerard Mayo. Jacksonville making their move, and then Antonio Pierce going for the Raiders. So already a lot of speculation that Mike Vrabel is going to be the next head coach of the New England Patriots, which as a Patriots fan makes me very happy. I don't think Robert Kraft ever anticipated Mike Vrabel being available. I think a lot of people were surprised last year when he got fired. And he was kind of in a tough spot. Robert Kraft had made a commitment to Gerard Mayo in his contract that he would get that opportunity. I don't think he thought Bill Belichick would be gone as quickly. I don't think he thought Mike Vrabel would be available as quickly. And I think that combination on top of Gerard Mayo towards the end of the season really kind of losing a grip on this team. And let's face it, this was a good defense last year. And if you're a defensive-minded coach, you can't be a bottom-tier defense. You can win 4 games. You could be a bad football team, but you got to play a little bit better, I think, sometimes. And I think that is the big problem. Plus, you want a regime that's going to be able to really grow your young quarterback. And if you have coach and quarterback, you have a future and a shot in the NFL. And they have Drake May. I anticipate, like many people, Mike Vrabel being that guy there. But the Raiders, a lot of buzz there with Deion Sanders. Do you think that could be a thing? Could Deion and Shador be continuing player and dad, just moving from Colorado and graduating to the NFL? What do you think? You think we might see that in 2025?
I mean, nothing would surprise me. I also heard rumblings with the Tom Brady Association that if somehow Belichick could come away from North Carolina, I don't know the ramifications of that, and in the contract that would be a fit as well. There's just so much circus that goes on out there. And again, it's our job as a wagerers and wagering show to kind of just fade that noise, to kind of just move everything aside. So all these coaching changes really impact the way we're going to wager, because it impacts schemes and systems. I think you'll see a few more OCs and also defensive coordinators maybe being without jobs, but things like that are interesting to watch as we look ahead. But also we have to keep in mind what is in our lap for today. So let's talk about that as well.
Yeah. One more quick note on that too, because, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, two guys that are probably going to be looking. I imagine the Jets would be very interested in Glenn, and the Bears very interested in Ben Johnson. This is another reason why teams that win or lose the Super Bowl have a tough time getting back the next year, because you lose coordinators. Look at the Eagles a couple years ago, right? They get to the Super Bowl, have a great season. Both coordinators get jobs. They struggle the next year. It's just something you could see happening. It's happened to the 49ers before too, right? When they lost Robert Saleh, they didn't get back to the Super Bowl the next year. So keep an eye on that as coordinators start to leave some of these better teams, how that impacts teams in the future. And speaking of the future is murky for Tyreek Hill. A down year for Tyreek Hill, and guess what? Peace out. I'm done. That's what he said, at least. We'll see. Tyreek Hill, this was the first season under 1,000 yards for him since 2019, where he only played 12 games. His lowest touchdown total, only 6 of his career, and the lowest success rate, 52% since his rookie season. Now, it was a disappointing year for the Dolphins. Tua missed time again. Certainly, missing the playoffs is not something that Tyreek Hill is used to, but that striker, is this just the absolute poster child for entitlement here? I mean, not every NFL season is going to go your way, Tyreek. Look, some players never get to play in the playoffs. I'm a little annoyed at this. If I was his teammate, I'd be annoyed. Do you think Tyreek Hill stays put and fences get mended, or do you think he's somewhere else in 2025?
I think there's still some ramifications of the Flores fallout and everything. I think that whole team needs to get back on track overall. I do think these numbers need to be taken with a grain of salt considering what happened with Tua, but hopefully they can, because Tyreek Hill will be a nice fit for a lot of teams.
He would be, but again, if he doesn't win there, then what? We're on to the next place. Accountability matters. Maybe it's a little bit of you too. Maybe you didn't have such a great season. I remember a lot of wrist injuries and you weren't sure if you could play and all this stuff. Look, Tyreek, it wasn't a great year for you either. Everybody is there to be accountable. And speaking of accountability, when we come back, Joey P's going to be accountable for better or worse. You'll see when we return.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports today. Matt Stryker and Joe Pisapia with you here. And what we're about to do here may break the bank. I don't know, but we're doing something. We're going to hold feet to the fire. It's time now for FST Futures Past. What I love here is we're pulling old tickets from Joey P. I'm going to hold Joe's feet to the fire. But I love is that Joe brought this to the table. It's not us saying, hey, you come here. Joe busted into the office one day and held up a piece of paper and said, look, 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 look. We all looked, and now here we are. Joe, my friend, you've been right more often than you've been wrong. And I mean, at the end of the day, I tip the cap to you. Yeah, no. Let's start with a guy that's playing today, Terry McLaurin. Finally a quarterback, finally a system. Maybe the Commanders are taking that step forward. We expect some big points today. Talk to us about the wager that you had and what cashed.
Well, in week 1, if everybody recalls, who's been watching the show every week, I put out my favorite bets of 2024. So I thought it would be very smart to go back and look and see how I did with these bets and the futures of them. And I don't know if there was a player I had more shares of than Terry McLaurin going into the season. And it's because his value was so good. And I couldn't wrap my beautiful bald head around why people were down on Terry McLaurin, who had 4 straight seasons of 1,000 yards with a bunch of jabronis basically playing quarterback around him. And now he's finally got Jaden Daniels. And I know he was a rookie, but he's a really good rookie. And guess what? Jaden Daniels played very well, and so did Terry McLaurin. So the number was 925.5 receiving yards. And he did go over. That was the bet. We cashed it. He had 1096. So this was not hard. This was a very easy one. It was 5th straight season of 1,000 yards. And just for good measure, he finished in PPR leagues as wide receiver 7 overall. That's pretty darn good. So I'm hoping next year the Commanders add another wide receiver piece. I think that would only make McLaurin better, because then you'd have to really move your attention around as a defense. So look for the Commanders either in the draft or in free agency to pick up another wide receiver. We're going to talk about some key free agents in fantasy later in the program today, but 1 of 1 so far. We're doing okay. Let's move to the next one and see how Joey P did.
All right, so steak, mashed potatoes, peas, and chocolate cake on Joe so far, but it looks like drinks are going to have to be on someone else, Joe, because there was a loss here. But, I mean, listen, I'm not that you need anyone to rush to your defense, right? You are like a lion, set it free, it'll defend itself. But there were some quarterback issues here for this next receiver that you missed something on. But I'll let you take it from here, but I just want people to know that it's not all a missed play on Joe's part.
Yeah, you're right. Those are some pretty good reasons, but at the end of the day, it's excuses. And Christian Watson, it was a low number, 700.5. That's all we had to get to. We fell short of that one. So 620 was the number he ended up with. He missed 3 games. Jordan Love missed some time there as well. So that combination kind of did me in, unfortunately. So I'll take the L here. So now we are 1 of 2. Let's see if we can get to the positive side. I don't want to dwell in this, but as Matt pointed out, there were some reasons there and still relatively close. I mean, we're only 80 away. One more game with a healthy Watson and Love, we might have gotten this number, but unfortunately, harsh reality is we fell short.
But what I like here is that it gives us a lesson in looking. You can miss by a yard, you can miss by 100 yards, it's still a loss. But the amount that you wager, the amount that you put down is really what matters. So let's look at this next one here, because this is laughable. And I imagine you ran and threw almost everything you had on this Derrick Henry prop that like, I'll let you say when you hit it, but pretty laughable. So hopefully everyone cashed. Joe, what'd you have?
I've never bet something so quickly in my life as when I saw this number come out. 925.5 rushing yards for Derrick Henry going into the season. Now, people were worried because he was 30 and all this stuff. Meanwhile, what did we say in week 1, right? I said, look, he's going to a team that ran the football more than any other team, more efficiently than any other team. He's got Lamar Jackson playing quarterback. If you think he's not breaking 1,000 yards, you're nuts. Well, he broke 1,900 yards. He had, 186 last night, too, on top of that. So we cashed this one. We cashed it in week 8 or 9, if memory serves. Like, this was straight cash, homie, in the words of Randy Moss. This was easy. Now, I also said it was a good bet to have Derrick Henry lead the league in rushing, which normally this would have been true, except for Saquon Barkley.
Timeline.
Oh, my God. Could I get a better universe break here? 2,000 yards from Saquon Barkley. I did not have that on the bingo card. Saquon, congratulations. And Saquon sat that last game, so there was still maybe even a small glimmer of hope that Derrick Henry could get it, but it was not meant to be. Very disappointing, but the process was good. 1921 is a pretty good total. 9 times out of 10, or maybe 99 out of 100 even, we're going to have Derrick Henry lead the league in rushing with that number. So it's unfortunate, but at least the process was pretty good, and Derrick Henry smashed this. Oh, he doubled this number at the end of the day. Very impressive, Derrick Henry.
Yep, I like it. And you said the process, so I like that. Let's keep paying attention to Joey P's process here, because there's a player, I've been doing this show with you since its inception. There's a player that you mentioned that you yourself said right before we came on the air that maybe you were a year too early. I think you were right on time, and this player cashed. Who is it and what'd you have?
Look, everybody knows when Bijan Robinson was a rookie, I was all in. I was all in early. I was like top 6, let's go, overall kind of player. That's how good I thought he was coming out of college. And unfortunately, Arthur Smith didn't know what to do with him. And if you haven't learned yet, you can watch last night's Steeler game and had some more Arthur Smith feelings if you wanted to get in your Arthur Smith feels yesterday. But last year, 2024, was pretty good. So Bijan Robinson finally hit expectations. In fact, he was so good this year that he even finished as RB3 overall in PPR. What does that mean? The prop for him was 1,025.5 rushing yards. Well, guess what? We cleared this easily. 1456. Ring the bell, Matt Stryker. Put it on the board. Yes, we did it. So it's a pretty good. We hit McLaurin, we hit Bijan, we hit Derrick Henry. We didn't get the bonus Derrick Henry one, which, again, 2,000 yards from somebody does not happen every season, especially from Saquon, a guy who had a lot of incomplete and injured seasons. But if you ask me who's got a better chance to repeat next year, Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley, I'm going to go with Derrick Henry. I'm just saying the law of averages of Saquon in his career has told us health has been an issue. Derrick Henry has not. Derrick Henry looks spectacular. Can we just talk about last night, too? I know we're going to talk more about it in a second, but my goodness, the king was back on the throne yesterday. It was so good. Christian Watson disappointing, but I would say overall a pretty good look at the futures. You can't win them all, folks, but process matters, as Matt was pointing out as well. I think the process and all those were pretty good, and we got close to being perfect, but it wasn't meant to be. When we come back, more FST. We'll be right back after this.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports today. Matt and Joe with you here, having a great time. Cool Hand Luke, TD Jake behind the glass as well, part of the team. Ding, ding. before we can understand where we're going, we must understand where we've been. I think it was Rakim that said, it ain't where you're from, it's where you're at. We're going to take a look at the wild card recap from yesterday to see how we can apply some of the trends that we think may affect our wagering today. Joe, the Chargers at the Texans and the Steelers at the Ravens. Now, most people will talk about the second half of that Chargers-Texans game, everything that you could possibly want and more. Very entertaining, very WWE-like, if you will. But then the real football kind of came out in the latter game. And I think the casual fan, and I was watching with some casual fans, a lot of the people in the room were asking, the Steelers just appear lackluster. Everything they do just appears to be a step behind Baltimore. So even the casual eye could see that Baltimore had that advantage. Now, will we be seeing anything from yesterday today?
Well, maybe a little bit here and there, but we'll get to that Ravens game in just a second. I just think the Ravens finally exercised the demons a couple weeks ago of Lamar Jackson always just kind of, being owned, quote unquote, by the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then people have used that term on him. And guess what? You are until you're not. And by the way, don't sweat the technique on Mr. Matt Stryker dropping some Eric B. and Rakim lyrics here on the show early in the morning before we even hit 9 o'clock. I mean, that's tremendous effort by you. However, on top of that, Lamar finally, again, was able to get that monkey off his back and performed really well in that last game against the Steelers. It was at home and last night as well. But let's start with the early game here with the Chargers, because this was a game that most of us, quote unquote, sharps were in on the Chargers. Harbaugh, a really good coach, Herbert playing very well. And think about the turnaround of this team, right? This was a team that was a disaster. They had a top 3 overall pick last year, right? Or top 5, I should say, overall pick last year. And now they're a playoff team. So an incredible turnaround in 1 year for the Chargers. But the Texans, a team that had been really lackluster and struggled against really good teams all season long, it seemed like an easy one. Now, the problem was maybe the media put a little bit too much into the Houston Texans bubble because those guys were not feeling it. The defense was not feeling it. I think it was Rex Ryan called this a bye week for the Chargers, and the Texans took it personally. And after the game, Joe Mixon was lighting up a cigar and talking about the bye week. And it looks like, some of these players sometimes hear this and it was the right motivation. And let's give credit first to the defense, because they were put in some terrible spots in the first half of this game. They held to 3, the Chargers, over and over again. And when you're settling for 3s instead of 6s, it's going to come back to haunt you. Turnovers were a problem, especially in the second half of this game here. Justin Herbert had 3 interceptions all season long. He had 4 in this game. Now, one of them certainly not his fault, right off the hands of Disley, but still, at the end of the day, there's no official scorer in football, which I don't understand personally. I want to get that changed. I don't think every interception should be on the quarterback sometimes when you hit a guy in the numbers here with a pass and it goes off of him and somebody else. I think interceptions should sometimes go to the wide receiver, but that's another fight for me. However, the Chargers end up unfortunately coming up short. Great job by C.J. Stroud in the second half of this game, running all over the place, doing what he does. Joe Mixon in the second half, despite a big fumble to open the second half, bounced back. Some good stat lines. So I was in on the over on McConkey receptions and yards. We certainly got that. That was an easy one, but the Chargers fall short. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, to what you were talking about, Matt, they seemed like a team that was just outclassed, outmanned, outnumbered. I mean, all the Hamilton stuff aside, man, like I'm telling you right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers need to search the souls here a little bit, because this could have been a season about finding your young quarterback. You had 26-year-old Justin Fields, who was 4-2. You replaced him with 36-year-old Russell Wilson. Where? Why? To get to a winning record and get out in the first round of the playoffs again. Now, this offseason, you're in the same spot you were last time, right? Which is what? You're looking for a quarterback, and you don't know if Fields could be that guy. Derrick Henry is that guy. Lamar Jackson's this guy. And the Ravens literally ran the ball down the Steelers' throat. And I mean, 15 times in a row at one point, they were running the football. 15 plays in a row, Matt, in an NFL game. I don't know what's going on here, but that was pretty impressive. They asserted their will, asserted their dominance. The Ravens are going to be tough for anybody. The defense playing better. Look, I know in the second half there, in the third quarter, Wilson got them on the board. It looked like they might get back into this game. And then the Steelers said, nope, not happening. This was a very one-sided game. This was over at halftime. And the Ravens and Lamar Jackson are going to be a problem in the next round of the playoffs for whoever they get. So we'll see who that is today and tomorrow as everything starts to unfold. But AFC right now, look, it's the Ravens looking really dominant. Can the Houston Texans duplicate that kind of emotion on the road? We'll see, but some pretty good performances out of those two wins. When we come back, more FST. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt and Joe with you here, and I'm really excited about this segment because it's time for our DFS plays. This is going to be special because what Joe and the boys have done here, they've broken it down into premium and into value. And I think this is smart for the playoffs because those that are still playing DFS, and look, if you're not, you're leaving money on the table. Understand that. But if those that are playing DFS really understand that you can lose your shirt right away, right here on a day like today. But what Joe and the guys have done here is really going to help us out. So, Joe, let's start at the premium running backs. And I'll give you a guess, Joe. It's going to be tough. Who do you think's the first name? All right. So Saquon Barkley sits at 9,600, and I'll let you take it from there. Premium running backs start with Saquon at 9,600.
Look, Saquon is rested for a week. He's super expensive. And I think I'm willing to put him in some lineups. I am. And usually I want to shy away from the very top, but I think the game script of this one is Eagles by 1,000,000. And I think they're going to be sitting on the football later in this game. His rushing prop from Vegas, and this is something you want to look at too. You know, how do these things correlate all together? His number's at 101.5. It's absurd, right? And I like the over. So if I like the over and I'm going to pay for premium productivity, I better be lined up to get premium productivity. And I think I'm going to get that from Saquon today. I think he scores a touchdown in this one, maybe two. I think it's going to look a lot like yesterday's Derrick Henry game, to be honest with you. And I just think the Packers are a team that's limping to the finish line, just like I thought the Steelers were a team limping to the finish line too. You know, you lost a couple games there at the end. If you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you end up 5 straight losses, adding in the playoffs. It feels like the Packers are a team that health has been an issue. They lost Christian Watson. Dobbs has been hurt. You had Jordan Love dealing with an injury. There was a lot of problems here. So give me Saquon. I'm going to pass on Kyron. James Cook, I think, has some upside in this game today. Yeah. Josh Jacobs, I'm concerned. Again, the game script goes how I am writing it. Saquon Barkley and the Eagles are ahead, and they have to get away from what they want to do, which is run the football in Green Bay, and that could hurt Josh Jacobs' value. Now, Bucky Irving is right on that borderline. Bucky Irving at 7,600 is incredibly interesting to me. If I'm not paying up for Saquon, then I want to start with Bucky Irving, who has been spectacular down the stretch here for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a game that has a very high total that I think could exceed that total. Now, if I get the two of them together, I got to find a lot of salary cap relief other places, and I can do that, but it is going to be trickier. So if you can't go to Saquon right away, the pivot on the premium guys is to the guy right on the fringe of Bucky Irving.
All right. So now with that said, we're going to try to build multiple lineups. Let's move to the value portion of the running backs here. The name at the top, would you go right? I'll let you reveal it. Would you go right there, or is there a value running back, if you will?
There is, I think, a value running back. I'm looking at, obviously on this list, you have Aaron Jones, you have Brian Robinson Jr., right? Robinson could be a guy that sees the end zone multiple times. You also get Austin Eckler, who came back last week and played a little bit at 5,400. Now, he's interesting because he does catch the football a little bit. So if you get into a shootout situation, Eckler could be a guy used a lot more than you think. Now, Eckler missed some time there with the concussion issue again, but he did play last week. He was involved in the offense, so I'm a little bit more comfortable playing him. Jaleel McLaughlin at 5,500, also a guy. So there is a cavern there between Saquon and Eckler where you compare them together and maybe get the best of both worlds, especially in a full point PPR in a spot like DraftKings, right? Where you can take that high and low and kind of make it work and get like a better average. If not, I think it's Bucky Irving and James Cook. That pairing is pretty good. Or maybe a Bucky Irving and a Jaleel McLaughlin or somebody like that too, who might see the end zone. Let's not forget the Bills defense has given up a lot of points here down the stretch. There was back-to-back weeks where they gave up 90. So the Bills defense is far from perfect. In fact, they even showed you against the Patriots. I know effort maybe wasn't the biggest deal last week for the Buffalo Bills, but still, just saying, that Bills defense is not exactly world beaters, and that's why I'm a little worried about them getting or winning the Super Bowl this year.
Oh, boy. All right. We'll have that conversation more as the show rolls on. Now let's move to the premium wide receivers as we continue to build our lineups. Justin Jefferson's at the top at 9,200. I normally don't like to have to wait till Monday. I'd like to build a separate lineup, but let me hear from you because of the way it's all structured out.
Yeah, you can't have Jefferson and Barkley. You just can't do it. So you got to pick one or the other. Now, I would imagine that Jefferson bounces back after a very disappointing week 18, lots of opportunities in the red zone, and him and Darnold just could not get together on it, unfortunately. And then things spiraled out of control in the second half of that game against the Lions. So Puka Nacua, who's been really good, 8,700. If I'm the Vikings, I'm just not letting Puka Nacua beat me. Cooper Kupp, towards the month of December here, I think a little disappointing. A.J. Brown, consistent at 8,600. Mike Evans, a little concerning. Now, his old friend Marshawn Lattimore is back for the Washington Commanders. And that has been his kryptonite over the years. Is Lattimore 100% healthy? Probably not. But if there's one guy who has given Mike Evans fits in that division for years and years, it's been Lattimore. Now, ironically, he has to face him in the playoffs that he is a Washington Commander. Now, Terry McLaurin on the other side at 7,700. We already talked about this. Terry McLaurin has been a wide receiver one in fantasy. You can start there. If you want to go up to Saquon Barkley, you could start at Terry McLaurin. You can go put Austin Eckler in there, and you could start to load up a little bit into that high total evening game. And I think that is the way I want to go. Devonta Smith is a huge fade for me. I just don't see enough available for him. Now, maybe he sees the end zone. It's a fluky thing. But with a healthy Jalen Hurts, a healthy A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts and, Saquon Barkley, all those guys all together, it's just getting really tricky out there to find enough footballs to go around for Devonta Smith. So I'm going to fade away from Devonta Smith. I'm going to look for Terry McLaurin as that go-to guy, as a wide receiver one who is still premium, but at a little bit cheaper cost than guys like Puka or Justin Jefferson.
My gosh, it's like shopping with my wife. Everything. I'll leave the aisle. I'll come back with a handful of stuff, all excited. No. Okay, maybe. And then as we walk down, I'll see that the maybe has been put over by the coffee, and now it's nothing. Okay, let's go to some value wide receivers here. Here's the thing, you're looking at matchups, right? Joe's going to tell you who's on whom and why it matters. And then we're looking at implied totals as well. And there's a couple of players here in separate games, I believe, that could apply to this conversation. Value wide receivers, Joe, where are you going?
Well, there's one that stands out, and it's Cortland Sutton, and that's because it's pretty clear where they want to go with the football. So 7,100 Cortland Sutton for the Denver Broncos. He has been the go-to guy for Bo Nix, and over the last 10 weeks or so, Bo Nix and Josh Allen have very similar statistics, which I know is going to freak a lot of you out, but it's just a fact. So Cortland Sutton is that guy. Mims has been a big play guy. So if you're in tournaments and you want to get a piece of the Denver offense, maybe playing from behind, having to throw the football, then yeah, Mims could be a guy you throw in there as a flex play. I like that. You don't see him on the list right now because he's cheaper than all these guys. Cooper Kupp for me is a fade on this list. Again, don't like the trend. I like the Vikings defense. I think they got measured. I think they realized what happened last week, and now they're going to get better off of that. Jalen McMillan, I absolutely love at 6,400. Again, if I don't like Mike Evans, I got to look for touchdowns somewhere else. McMillan has been a stud down the stretch. Addison, McMillan, 68, 64, two of the best values, and you're going to get touchdown equity out of both of those guys. So those are my targets in this group.
All right, Joe, you're on a roll. I don't want to stop you. Let's talk quarterbacks, and if you're so inclined, we have time for tight ends.
Yeah, look, quarterback's going to be tough. If you go to Saquon, you have to go down at the quarterback position, which means I think Bo Nix at 7,500 against Buffalo is better than people realize. He's a little bit mobile, too. You want to do the bounce back Sam Darnold, or better yet, Baker Mayfield at 79. But it's really tough unless you're going to go Hurts, Barkley, and go all in on that Philly side stack and then just cheap out with the McMillans of the world and some tight end value, which we'll take a look at the tight end value
in just a moment. Seemingly so, Joey P getting excited, and it looks like the traffic on our internet has caused it. So Dallas Goedert is at 6 even on the tight end side, but I don't think Joe got through the rest of the quarterbacks. Joe, I'll let you pick it up and take it home.
Yeah, look, real quick again, Bo Nix, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, I think that is the spot. And just to recap there too, Jalen Hurts, if you're going to put Hurts and Barkley together and just take all the Eagles offense, which I don't think is a bad move in DFS today, you got to find extreme value at tight end. So I offer you Tyler Higbee, who is back and healthy. And I think Higbee is a guy, you look at how cheap he is on that board. There's an opportunity there for Tyler Higbee to give you a return, get you some yardage, and get you some double-digit points, and you can get by. It's not a very strong tight end group today, so if I'm going to go cheap out, throw a dart, hope it hits. Kraft, Higbee, that's where I would go. But certainly a slate where I want to focus on the Eagles, and then that Bucs-Commanders game, that is my feeling. When we come back, more FST. Don't go anywhere.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today, where during the break, someone mentioned hoagies and Cokes, and I kind of just went off somewhere. So thanks for drawing me back into reality. But sometimes, look, it's like I tell my kids, everything in moderation, right? When we were younger, sure, we pounded all that stuff. But now that I'm older and I haven't had these things in a while, when you say something like that to me, I can almost hear the ice jingling and feel it. And it's one of the great sensations. All right, time to go by the numbers here, Joe. You have a great way of just bringing things to life. What can you do with some stats from the 2024 season?
Well, I won't do this whole segment in a Delco Philadelphia accent. I promise I won't. I was stuck on his Schuylkill. I was trying to get him early, because I want to stop by the Wawa before the game, get a couple of hoagies, and we can go and watch the Eagles play and get down there before. Man, I miss living in Philadelphia.
Viewership is rapidly declining, by the way. So
let me tell you, this crowd's going to be ready in Philadelphia. I know this town. It's my second city. It's my second favorite home. And I'm telling you, this game is in the afternoon. 9 o'clock this morning, those people are going to be ready to go. They're going to start in the parking lot.
What's up, Philly?
Oh my God. What's up, Philly? We see you. We see you. We know it's going to be like that.
Everyone's there.
It's one of the few home field advantages that's still. Baltimore's still a tough place to play. Yep. Philly's always a tough place to play in MLB and NFL. And that's the thing, man. Some of these other towns, you got to step it up. You got to step it up. Create a home field advantage. The Eagles do that, man. So good on them. But yes, stats are fun. Numbers are fun, especially when we're talking about positive things. And I want to say positive, at least with this first one here, because I have been very tough on Bryce Young over the years. The size of Bryce Young, taking him over CJ Stroud, all those things I just thought was a mistake. I was very encouraged at the hiring of Dave Canales because I think when you look back at his track record of fixing quarterbacks, he fixed Geno Smith, which was no small task. He got the best out of Baker Mayfield, and Baker Mayfield now, obviously, 2 years in a row in the playoffs. And this was the year that he got his hands on Bryce Young now as a head coach. And it was rough at first. And then a lot of people were worried because when he got benched for Andy Dalton earlier this year, which I know it's a long time ago, it feels like years ago, it was just, in the fall of 2024, people thought maybe things are done for Bryce Young. Well, it wasn't. He sat, he learned, he got better. And if you look at these numbers here in the last 3 games of the season, pretty darn good. 64% completion percentage, 612 passing yards, 100 rushing yards. So a little bit mobile too, averaging, a little over 30 yards per game there. 10 total touchdowns, 0 interceptions. That's the number that matters the most here. Is he getting comfortable playing the quarterback position? Passer rating of 111.6. So all these numbers, Matt, bode very well next year. The Carolina Panthers, it's funny, they got rid of Deontay Johnson. Yeah. And all of a sudden, everything got better around them in the offense, right? Adam Thielen came back. You had Xavier Legette. You had Jalen Coker. You had some pieces around him. Chuba Hubbard had a really good season. It's a good thing they signed him to an extension because it just doesn't look like Jonathan Brooks, unfortunately, is going to be seeing the field again anytime soon. So it looks like they've figured things out. They have stabilized. And now the Carolina Panthers can start using picks elsewhere. Help the offensive line. Maybe help the defensive side of the football. So I want to just shout out Dave Canales here, who's done a really good job of resurrecting the career of another big-time draft quarterback who wasn't really succeeding in the NFL. And if there's a quarterback whisperer out there, it's Kevin O'Connell, it's Dave Canales. There's a finite number of these guys, maybe a Sean McVay too, but I'm going to tell you right now, he's done a great job with Bryce Young, and I think better things are on the horizon. And next year in Superflex leagues, he's going to be a guy that actually I'm going to circle as a value that I feel pretty good about as my QB2.
Wow, nice. And that's good for the franchise as well. And I mentioned franchise because this next stat here is quite interesting when you consider the tenure of players that have played for the Lions franchise. Most touchdowns in a season in Lions franchise history, and considering the makeup of the offense, this one really stands out. Joe, take it away.
Fun fact, everybody. Saquon Barkley does not have the most PPR points for running backs this year. It's actually Jahmyr Gibbs, who's ahead of him by about 9. So when you consider that he split the backfield with David Montgomery most of this season, it's a pretty astounding statistic. And then you throw this one in too, 20 touchdowns for Jahmyr Gibbs, 20. The explosiveness is there. You've seen when he has the whole backfield to himself how good he is. This was a guy who was just a stunning talent in college. A couple years ago, we were fawning over ourselves at the incredible total of Jamal Williams, 17 touchdowns. And he's gone way past that, right? And again, splitting that backfield, pretty tough times. Barry Sanders only had 17. Calvin Johnson as a Lion, 16. So Jahmyr Gibbs setting the record here for the Lions. I mean, those are some big-time Hall of Fame names, and none of them have 20 touchdown seasons. So I just wanted to shout out Jahmyr Gibbs, and I don't think, he gets enough credit. If you remember going into draft season, we were at the turn, I kept saying, I think Jahmyr Gibbs really deserves to be taken in the top 10, and a lot of people just still weren't feeling it. And I think next year when he goes to the top 5, people are going to have a much different expectation. Lastly, another running back I want to talk about. We gave some love to Bijan Robinson earlier in the show. I want to give some more love to him. Bijan Robinson has 32 games with 50 or more yards from scrimmage over his first 2 seasons. That is the most in NFL history over that span, if you can believe it. So Bijan Robinson, an incredible season for him, and I think only going to get better next year. Matt, do we have one more number here that the people need to know?
Yeah, and I think you should show some love to the quarterbacks. What do we have?
Yeah, the quarterbacks here, 40 touchdowns is a benchmark for sure. You don't see a lot of quarterbacks doing it in the same season. In fact, if you go back here, just 3 times have you had 3 quarterbacks in the same season go over 40 touchdowns. This year it was Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and who? Baker Mayfield, our Intercontinental MVP. Terrific. Look, you go back to 2020, it was Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and Russell Wilson. That seems like a lifetime ago. And then, of course, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, and Matthew Stafford in 2011 as well. So great season here from Baker Mayfield. And once again, this is now 2 years in a row. He has finished as a QB1, and 2 years in a row, he was not drafted as a QB1 in fantasy. I hope that changes next year. We'll see what happens. I don't know what more this guy has to do to earn the respect of everybody out there, but Baker Mayfield has mine. There are a lot of people wondering if Canales left, will Baker Mayfield fall apart the way Geno did a little bit? He did not. In fact, in a lot of ways, he got better this year and played incredible football. When Godwin went down, when Evans went down, the Buccaneers stayed afloat on that ship. See that? That's a nice little metaphor. All right, I'm going to let that sink in for you when we come back. More football and a deep dive on Jamar Chase.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt and Joe with you here, part of the incredible SportsGrid family, and leave it to our team to come up to the plate when history has been made. Joe, I understand in our deep dive here, we're going to take a look at some history made by a wide receiver this season.
Yeah, and you think the history is good now. Wait till you see the historic number he gets paid in 2025 by the Bengals, because that's coming around real soon. The Triple Crown was won by Jamar Chase this year. He led the league in receptions. He led the league in receiving touchdowns. He led the league in receiving yards. He led the league in just about everything. He was absolutely tremendous, and they almost got back into the playoffs. Just one game shy. Oh, if you didn't lose week 1 to my Patriots, what could have been? What a terrible first performance there for those. I mean, that's going to stick in their craw for a very long time. But the good news is he's not going anywhere. The Bengals are not going to let him walk. He is going to be a Bengal forever and ever. The Bengals would have been smart just to pay the man what he wanted, because then he went out and did this. And it was an incredible season. Not a lot of wide receivers have won the Triple Crown. It's a tough thing to do. So let's go back historically and look at some of the names on this list. Now, 2021 was a magical year for Cooper Kupp, and he paid the price. Now, some people might look at that and say, man, Cooper Kupp really declined after that year because of all that volume. But let me remind you, Cooper Kupp also went deep into the playoffs, into the Super Bowl that year too. And that's a lot of wear and tear on a body that also had struggled with some injuries too. So I'm not worried about Jamar Chase on that same note. Some Hall of Famers on this list too. Steve Smith in 2005 did it. You have Jerry Rice in 1990. You would think Jerry Rice did this more than once, but that just tells you how hard it is to get the trifecta. And he did it. Next year, Jamar Chase is going to be probably the 1 overall pick. He was my number 1 overall pick in Dynasty and Redraft this year. I just thought he was the safest guy, and I love the fact that he was playing for a contract. A lot of people were shying away from Jamar Chase, worried that he might sit out. These kind of guys are not going to sit out. They're going to go and get paid, and that's what they do in these big contract years. So what is the big question going into 2025? It is, can he repeat this? And now that he gets paid, does he take some games off when he doesn't feel 100%? Is he going to play through injuries? Those are all legitimate questions. I think the fact, Matt, that they missed the playoffs this year bodes well for 2025 of them kind of reassuring, refocusing themselves. Hopefully they have a good offseason. Unfortunately, T. Higgins is going to go away. You're going to see either Burton or Yoshi Voss probably elevated, or maybe somebody else signed. Perhaps a veteran could be signed too to fill that gap of that number 2 wide receiver role. But what do you make of the Jamar Chase 2024 campaign? And what are your thoughts going forward? Is he the number 1 guy on your board next season?
That depends on how you want to draft and where you put your value, because we're going to find ourselves at the start of the next season faced with 3 roads. Do we go down the running back road? Do we think we're going to return back to tight end productivity? Or do we go where we were wanting to go and you were leading a lot of people, I believe it was last season, down that wide receiver role? We have to see how drafts shake out. But what's intriguing about what Chase has done this year and what Joe Burrow has been saying seemingly after every single game is everything is in place for this team. They just need, like you said, to fix a few things, add a piece here, take a piece away, but everything is in place for this team. And a lot of people that I speak to feel like they wanted this team to be in the playoffs, but that's not the case. But I think with what Burrow was saying, what Chase is capable of, yeah, I think there's good things ahead for the Bengals.
Yeah, I do too, especially in this division. And here's why. We didn't mention this at the top, but Deshaun Watson tore his Achilles again. So we're not going to be looking at Deshaun Watson as a quarterback, I don't think, next year of the Browns. The Browns had their little Bailey Zappi, Jameis Winston, DTR experiment. They got the number 2 overall pick. They're going to move on a quarterback, so they're going to continue to have to rebuild. Myles Garrett wants out. The Steelers find themselves where? Now searching for another quarterback, trying to figure out who they're going to be next year. And the Steelers are a good defense. They're not a dominant defense. They're a good defense. But at the same time, I think the door is going to open back up here potentially for the Bengals to step back in. They have to address that secondary. They really did a bad job. They had a lot of talent there a couple of years ago. They let guys like Jesse Bates walk. That was a big mistake. They should have paid him too. You've seen ever since has been a problem. Now the Bengals did tighten up a little bit defensively down the stretch. That's good. They did fire their defensive coordinator, which I don't think is fair. I don't think it was the coordinator's fault. It was the lack of talent that they had. But unfortunately, sometimes the coordinators are the guys that get the axe when things go wrong. But I think really they're just chasing the Ravens next year in that division. So Bengals, let's buy back in for 2025, folks. Come with me. Joe Burrow for MVP. Let's do it. It's going to be a fun season. I think a lot of confidence of how well this team played. And one thing is true, every year with Joe Burrow, without Joe Burrow, this team plays for Zach Taylor. They must love that guy because I thought they would be left for dead, and they were relevant in Week 18. We come back, Fantasy Award season. Don't go anywhere. We're going to hand out some hard ones.